Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. It is Wednesday, May 28th, and we've got a jammin' show ahead. We got some Supreme Court business we're attending to. Then we've got a Kilmar update because he filed a motion to dismiss. Then we're talking about some illegals who are getting arrested, hopefully deported, including one who wanted to take out President Trump. We'll go through it. But let me give you a quick rundown before we zoom into further details. As you can see on the SCOTUS front, we got Pam Bondi, Chad Mizell, and the rest of them sending this one in the DVD case. This is one of the deportation cases. Remember, they're all allowed to proceed pseudo-anonymously because they're better than you, and they don't even have to be accountable under their own names for their own illegal activities because the judges are so concerned about their well-being. Anyways, we're in the Supreme Court. We got D. John Sauer, who dropped this one, 126 pages in total. We got about 40 pages, and they're not happy about this. They're saying, look, we need an immediate administrative stay because this judge called Murphy out of Massachusetts that we've been talking about all week, this weird judge who really wants this one dude back in particular, is like, Mom, why don't you bring him back? We kind of like him. Yeah, order him to show cause in my office. You're like, oh, gosh. So whatever's going on over there, we'll go through it. The Supreme Court going to be catching some activity on this matter. Then we'll talk about the Kilmar case. You remember this guy. Wife beating, human trafficking, illegal alien who was ordered not to be sent to Guatemala, who wasn't sent to Guatemala, who was sent to El Salvador. Well, we know Judge Zenas rhymes with out of Maryland, the Massachusetts and the Maryland duo. Well, she came out with a screechy order to Trump saying, yeah, the very day you said you wanted an extension and you were asking for an extension the day it's due, and she's all upset about it. So she sent that one in, and then Trump just turned around and said, well, we don't really care what you're upset about because you don't even have jurisdiction over this case, Judge. And they dropped this motion to dismiss that we'll read through in further detail. And the Democrats, man, they've got pupusa fever. They just can't get enough pupusas. And so this one guy, Glenn Ivey, he's like, man, I know Senator Van Norman, that CIA dude, went down there, had some good margaritas, mojitos with Kilmar and the rest of the MS-13 gangbangers down there. So Glenn Ivey's like, I'm going to go get some of my own pupusa down there. And he went down there and they didn't let him in. Now he's calling this gangbanger, illegal alien, his constituent, which is strange. We'll see what he said about that before Homeland responded appropriately. Then we'll talk about this new scoop that Axios got because they're telling ICE, not just they, Stephen Miller is telling ICE, feels like it's a good time to supercharge the deportations. And I like the sound of that, I'll tell you what. So we'll read through this article here and what they've got their eyes on. We also saw that out in Texas, Attorney General Ken Paxton arrested these two Venezuelan illegals who might be constituents of that other congressperson after they killed and unalived this U.S. Air Force cadet. Sick story. Then these two maniacs fled the scene, hit someone else on their way out, trying to escape their liability for eliminating someone who we love as an American citizen. U.S. Air Force cadet candidate Ava Moore, Texas, killed by two illegals. And the Supreme Court could have done something about this a long time ago by allowing Trump and the American people to get security in our own country. We'll talk about that. We got Tom Homan. We got this other whack job. We got this illegal alien assassin who's going to take out Trump, allegedly, and all the things. And so it's a beautiful day, my friends. Really glad that you're here and with us. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully your week is unfolding incredibly well. You're accomplishing every single thing you set your mind to. This weekend, I would love it if you came and signed up and joined us. It's all free at an Eric's House virtual tour, a nonprofit organization, and we're doing good work over there. So your boy's going to be guiding everybody through a virtual tour this weekend, Saturday. We'll do our members only stream, and then we'll go over here to Eric's House. So come on by, come see the work that Eric's House is doing. If you don't have somebody that you've lost in your life due to suicide, overdose, tragic death, amazing. That's incredible. But you may know somebody who does. And so there may be a way that you can support them if they're going through something. And Eric's House is an amazing organization to do that. So come register, come join. Links are in the description. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to meet my mama. You're going to meet Greg. You're going to meet me. It's going to be fun. So come check it out. ericshouse.org. And the link is in the description below. They're doing amazing work. And so we would love to have your support over there. All right. Now, and it's all free. So come check it out on Saturday. Hope and healing. Come hope and heal with us. All right. So we've got business to attend to, and we're in the Supreme Court. The Trump administration has had about enough. They're demanding the Supreme Court finally take action on this illegal alien deportation battle that we've been covering here for quite some time. And they sent this one in to the United States Supreme Court from D. John Sauer. They said, hey, we need a stay of this lower level judge out of Massachusetts, this Murphy character who's a strange judge who says Trump has been ordered to bring these people back. They're illegals. They had plenty of process. They had final removal orders, and they were removed. And this judge says, well, I really like that one guy. And so can you bring him back? Because I'd like to talk to him privately. And so we're asking ourselves, what's going on this? And now we're going to the Supreme Court. Now, Pam Bondi gave us a little announcement on this and said, here's why we're doing this. The invasion of illegal aliens must end, and the conduct of our nation's foreign policy cannot be directed by a single weird judge in Massachusetts. The DOJ has asked the Supreme Court to intervene to stop this insanity so that President Trump can continue to deport the worst of the worst illegal aliens. We will continue to defend President Trump's lawful authority. He's not making it up. He got elected to the presidency to make America safe again. And what's happening is, by the Supreme Court allowing this stuff to continue, we have dead Americans who are just going around jet skiing like Ava, who was killed in Texas. So the Supreme Court, there is actually an urgency to this. If you're paying any attention, John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, we're tired of our people being killed by illegals. So stop the insanity. Chad Mizell is coming out and supporting Pam Bondi as well, saying the Supreme Court must put an end to judges usurping the president's foreign affairs powers. As explained in our brief, convincing third parties to accept these people is a big deal. And these aliens are now being protected by a single court judge called Judge Murphy in Massachusetts and Judge Zenas in Maryland and the rest of them. These are aliens being protected. One alien was convicted of abusing a child for most of a decade when the child was 7. Chad Mizell for the DOJ, chief of staff there for Pam Bondi, explains. Another was convicted of abusing a mentally handicapped woman with the mental capacity of a 3-year-old. What? He's not working on his PhD scholars and working in the fields, farming for America? And at least 2 others were convicted of unaliving people. All these aliens have been tried, they've been convicted in a criminal court, and they were already adjudicated to be removed. So one single weird federal district court judge has now stalled these efforts nationwide, and we're sick of it. Here is what they sent into the Supreme Court. They write, listen, John Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, wake up. Pursuant to the rules, we are now in your court. We've respectfully filed this application for a stay of the lower level judge Brian Murphy's decision out of Massachusetts. We're also appealing this to the First Circuit, and we need you to do something on this. Given the urgency of the circumstances and the government's ongoing irreparable injury in our affairs, diplomacy, immigration, foreign policy, we request an immediate administrative stay. Because this case addresses the government's ability to remove some of the worst illegal aliens that they want here. They want to have them have another set of due process hearings. They already got a set. Americans don't get to have multiple trials if they don't like the outcomes, but illegals do. That's the standard that they want. The United States is facing a crisis of illegal immigration. We've got dead young Air Force cadets being murdered by illegals, running away, fleeing the scene. In no small part, because many aliens most deserving of removal are often the hardest to remove. They don't go easily. When illegal aliens commit crimes in this country, they write to SCOTUS, they are typically ordered removed. Pretty obvious. But when those crimes are especially heinous, their countries of origin are often unwilling to take them back, because they deported their murderers and their child abusers and those who abused the mentally handicapped They get them out of their country, so we got to deal with them. And then we have psycho judges who say, don't be a bigot, Rob. You should accept them all. As a result, criminal aliens are often allowed to stay for years on end, and they victimize law-abiding Americans in the meantime. Now, the executive branch, President Trump, empowered by the American people, has taken steps to resolve this problem by removing aliens to third countries who've agreed to take them. Convincing third countries to take these maniac criminal monsters requires sensitive diplomacy, I'll bet. Until recently, those efforts were working. And then just last week, the government was in the process of removing these criminal aliens who had been in the country for years and decades after already getting final orders of removal. Despite having horrific crimes, they said you can't leave them out. These aliens, including one who was convicted of abusing a child and another, a mentally handicapped person. Two others, unaliving individuals. Now, all these aliens had already received extensive legal process, so stop your crying that they didn't get a hearing. All were tried and convicted in a criminal court. Those are the Article 3 courts they keep lecturing us about. With all the process and protections afforded to criminal defendants, all convicted, all adjudicated removable. But a single federal district court judge has stalled these efforts nationwide because he really wants that one dude back in his chambers. On behalf of a nationwide class of aliens with final orders of removal, the district court issued an extraordinary preliminary injunction that restrains Homeland from doing its job, even though the statutes say they can, unless they set an onerous set of procedures to assess any claims under the Convention Against Tortures. Now, those judicially created procedures are wreaking havoc on this process. In addition to usurping the executive's authority over immigration policy, the injunction disrupts sensitive diplomatic foreign policy and national security efforts. Here's how it works. Recent events, Supreme Court, wake up, vividly illustrate the injunction's pathologies and what they're doing to wreck America. Here's what happened. Last week, the lower level court required the government, don't send these people to the South Sudan. They did so by exploiting an open-ended term in its injunction, saying the government did not give them a meaningful opportunity on any of this to raise a fear of torture concern in that country, right? So the judge says they get a second bite at the apple, open it up, then they can reclaim that they're afraid of being tortured in the South Sudan, and so they can't be removed. They all did get notification. None expressed any fear at any time or even on that day. They said, hey, we're removing you. Are you afraid of anything? No. Great. Get on the airplane. Judge said that's not enough time because they didn't have an opportunity to talk to the ACLU lawyers. And the ACLU lawyers would be the ones who could explain to them that they have to be afraid because they're going to get murdered in the South Sudan or something. And drag out of them, create a whole new claim. The judge wants that meaningful opportunity to be accessed to Democrat lawyers. Having slammed on the brakes while those aliens were literally in mid-flight, they forced the government to then detain them at Djibouti, not designed or equipped to hold these monsters. Then the court retroactively clarified its injunction to impose an additional set of intrusive and onerous procedures on Homeland. And as a result of that, the United States has been put in this intolerable choice. We have to either do one of the following. We have to either hold these aliens for additional proceedings at a military base on foreign soil, you're requiring this, where each day of their confinement risks harm to American foreign policies, or we got to bring these people, these convicted criminals who are not citizens, back to America. That's the judge's decision. Is he like representing illegal alien criminals? Most tellingly, the injunction creates a diplomatic and logistical morass that the Secretaries of State and the Secretary of Defense, Hegseth and Rubio, told you is causing significant and irreparable harm. But in addition to being misguided here, these court-ordered procedures from the judge are also unlawful. To issue its injunction, the lower-level judge disregarded 3, count them, separate sets of jurisdictional bars that stop the courts from doing this crap, including to preserve the primacy of the executive branch. The court didn't care. Having done so, the court wielded its own subjective, quote, sense of fairness, and they quote it, because that's what came out of the judge's mouth, under the guise of due process. Well, it's not fair that they're going away, and I hate Trump. Second guessing the Trump executive branch about removing aliens whilst trying to comply with claims against torture obligations that were already validated. They're not afraid. Get on the plane. These are judicially invented policies, and the district court's aggressive enforcement of them caused severe harm to us. And the Court of Appeals declined to hear any of this, and so Supreme Court, it is time for you to do something. Now, here's how this works. The law, called the INA, it says the executive branch handles these, okay? It's not Article 3, it's Article 2, because they're illegal aliens, and the executive branch enforces the law. And they broke the law, entering the country illegally. So they don't get access to the same court system. It's not me saying that. Trump didn't make this change. It's the Immigration and Nationality Act. It's how it's been forever until now. The INA gives the executive broad authority to remove aliens to various countries. Obama removed a ton of people. Clinton removed a ton of people. Now that Trump is doing it, now they're saying, well, it's illegal. Give them access to the courts. It's a judicial coup. They're trying to get more power than they have, and the Supreme Court is enabling it. Of course, under the statute and regulations, the executive will not remove an alien if they're going to be tortured over there. And so there's provisions here. Now, while the INA authorizes the executive branch to remove them, it's also silent to the process that they must get. So we establish a framework, says Homeland. We established a 2-track system to address these people who've been ordered removed. And we've got sufficient assurance they're not going to be tortured down there. And you know what we're more concerned about? Our citizens being tortured by these illegals who are exploiting children and abusing people who are not mentally well. That injunction runs afoul. The judge said, you can't remove anybody, right? So the judge came, said these gangbanger illegals are now a class. They all get special protections, class counsel, ACLU lawyers. And they said, you're violating their due process because they didn't get lawyers to come in. It enjoined the government, said you can't remove anybody, and then clarified, saying don't take them out. Now, that injunction runs afoul of multiple bars to this judge's jurisdiction. He has no power over this case. First, this section of the law prohibits federal courts from issuing class-wide relief under the INA. Specifically, it says injunctions should not be happening. Now, it's irrelevant that this court relied on a provision that's not in there to justify its injunction, but the law says you can't issue it. Now, in addition to this, the immigration laws literally and specifically strip this judge and these courts of jurisdictions to review the claims. So Homeland says, are you afraid? He says, no, I'm not. Great, get on an airplane. The judge can't substitute the judge's opinion on that. The judge is saying, I didn't. The judge is just saying, well, I'm just substituting the amount of time. I just gave them more time to investigate this. Of course, they're all going to have claims suddenly once the lawyers come in. But it strips them. You can't substitute your judgment. Homeland gets the benefit of the doubt because it's an equal branch of government. It's actually much more powerful than the judiciary. The judiciary is trying to seize power now from the executive. Both sets of these bars apply here. They're demanding greater process for their claims, right? They want due process premium in America. If you get pulled over driving without a license, your car gets impounded. You get arrested for driving without a suspended license. Kilmar was allowed to go. He's an illegal. He was trafficking human beings. If you were trafficking human beings, you go to prison. He gets a call from the FBI, nothing. So they get more than you would get. If you lose your speeding ticket trial, you think you get another one in a different court because your due process was violated? Get out of here. That's hilarious. Tell due process to a speeding ticket judge anywhere in the world. You give this judge an illegal who is abusing a 3-year-old, and he says, yeah, that due process is pretty important for them. Now, the district court held itself above these limits, ignored the law completely, and then substituted his opinion in. That is no way to read any statute, but especially not this. And also, this judge's analysis is fatally flawed. Without any mooring in law, because he just loves illegals, it's really a bizarre thing to read in a writing. Like, this is weird. It doesn't even sound like a judge. The district court revised the government's policy to better comport with the sense of fairness. It rejected the government's approach in utilizing countrywide assurances as to the treatment, instead insisting that there were individualized assessments, right? Every single one of them gets to meet with the ACLU lawyer. But as this court has made clear, the Supreme Court, not this lower level judge, the judiciary is not suited to second guess the determinations that we establish. And they also then, the judge made up this whole new thing. Says, okay, now they get 10 days to raise a claim. No, we gave them 2 hours. Here's the thing. You're going on an airplane. Do you have a claim of fear? No, you don't. Okay, fine. Then get on the airplane. If you do have a claim of fear, well, then we'll process you. We won't put you on the airplane. But they didn't. They all got on the airplane. The judge wants 10 days. Again, this is specifically so that the lawyers can come in and file a claim on their behalf. Just talk to their clients. Is somebody attacking your pupusas down there? Moms of pupusas getting obliterated in the South Sudan? All right, yeah. Yeah, that's what we thought. Yeah, pupusas. No, it works. Or if you're a gay man and you're walking down the street and somebody looks at you strangely, maybe that is intimidation too. This judge will buy that too. So whatever you want, they'll just make something up. Then if there's an adverse finding, if they say, I'm a gay man going to be looked at weird in my pupusa business, then what they'll do is say, that's not enough. Okay, go make your pupusas. You're going to be fine. That's not torture because you get scolding looks. Deal with it. They'll turn around and say, then they get 15 days to appeal that finding from Trump. Oh, no. We think that was a real serious issue there. It typically takes minutes, not weeks, okay, for an alien to express fear of being tortured. Hey, you're going to the Sudan. Are you worried about this? Yes. They're going to, pupusa me to death or whatever. All they got to do is raise the claim. They didn't. These arbitrary deadlines, which add 25 days to the whole process, are out of step with other immigration law because the judge is just making it up. Now, all of this is particularly unjustifiable because many class members are aliens who have never been admitted to the United States. Therefore, they don't have due process rights to any additional removal proceedings beyond the ones that the political branches have provided. They're not citizens. The Supreme Court talked about this in DHS versus Thorasiagiam back in 2020. But what this judge did and his injunction is jeopardizing public interest. The injunction prevents Homeland from efficiently removing any of these aliens. It delays third country removal by at least 25 days for every single person who raises a torture claim, no matter how frivolous it is. Given the practical realities that this court neither appreciated nor acknowledged, the consequence of these delays are that ICE is going to have to restart the entire removal process from the beginning. They're going to have to freeze things as the government is trying to rework arrangements with foreign countries because now we're on a 2-week delay. That's the whole point. Judges trying to break the system. Meanwhile, the very aliens whose removal is most urgent will be allowed to remain in the country and will often be released, given the limitations and legal requirements, much to the peril of law-abiding Americans who just want to go out to the lake with their daughter and not be attacked by 2 illegals crashing into them, murdering their kids. The district injunction also causes severe ongoing irreparable harm to the government and, of course, to us, the American people. But what does this judge care? He's not elected at all. Finding third countries willing and able to accept aliens is a delicate endeavor. By interjecting itself in this process, the judge has become the president, wrecking those carefully negotiated arrangements, causing major and irremediable harm to U.S. foreign policy. Rubio even said that to you, Judge, and he is the duly appointed Secretary of State. Moreover, the injunction's open-ended terms allow the court to continually move the goalposts as the judge is now the president, as illustrated in the recent clarification that its original command said, right? In his original order, like the judge is just terrible too. He says, give them a meaningful opportunity to contest it. They said, great, we give him a full hour. Like he gave him the document, sat him in a room, no distractions, multiple languages, read it. Are you afraid you're going to be tortured? No. Okay, great. You need any more time to analyze it? No. Okay. But then the judge says, what? You did? That's not what I meant. That's not a meaningful opportunity. I wanted him to have a whole slew of lawyers from the ACLU come in here and have a cup of tea with him. Together, these onerous burdens impede the government's ability to do anything. Now, by contrast, the respondents, the gangbangers, and the lawyers cannot establish any irreparable harm to them. Okay, all members of the class, they've already been adjudicated and ordered by a judge to be removed from our country. And all have already had the opportunity to raise their claims about torture. Now, the injunction adds new hurdles to the process that we've already decided to offer. In circumstances where valid concerns about torture are notably unlikely to arise, how are they going to be tortured in this third country if they were never there before? No one even knows them. No one cares about them. Moreover, Homeland and their policy is similar in timing to other expedited removal processes that have already been upheld. The Supreme Court did it in this case called Thur ACGM, and it guards against the concerns about torture. We're concerned about American torture. They can go. The district court invented, and this new process is just delay. Certain aliens may benefit from stalling their removal, no doubt, but the nation does not, and we're absolutely sick of it. Now, you see the rest of this. We're going to go through this relatively quickly. They gave us the meat and potatoes there, but this is the statement of the legal background to the Supreme Court, lest they forget. The INA authorizes the removal of these people, INA, and that was passed a long time ago. This was not Trump. This is all the law. They're dumping all the rules in here, claims against torture. Doesn't alter whether an alien may be removed. It just goes to where an alien may be removed, all right? So we're not going to send you to Guatemala because your parents are there, Kilmar, and their pupusa business is still under attack. No problem. But we'll send you to El Salvador. You're not a citizen there. You may not want to go there, but there's no claim against torture down there. So El Salvador is perfect. Now, this is saying that it only stops them from going to a specific location. On his first day in office, Trump came in and declared that millions of illegals are a threat to national security. That's why he got elected, in large part. To fix this, to combat this, the president directed Homeland to take all appropriate action to detain and remove aliens who had been ordered removed. So then we issued guidance at Homeland on February 18th. We went through. We said, we're going to review cases and determine who can go. And if they have some sort of claim, we're going to send them to a different country. The INA does provide for third country removals, but it doesn't delineate a particular process. So we issued our own guidance on this. We created a policy, distinguishes between good countries and bad countries, and implemented the policy. And it's all in accordance with our laws and rights to execute the policies since, we're running things. So here's some more factual background on this case in specific. The respondents are 4 illegal aliens subject to final removals. They each include and allege that there are valid reasons to fear removal to specific countries that were not included in their removal orders. Okay, so they get a final removal order. And we talked about this a lot in the Kilmar case. If you recall, in Kilmar's case, right, they get a country that they're not removed to. You're going to be tortured over there. Okay, you can't just list every single country in the world and I'm going to be attacked in every country in the world. And so you can't deport me. So I'm here by default because you're so stupid. You pass stupid laws. In the Kilmar case, remember that in the conclusion, the judge said Guatemala. The Homeland has not said that we can send him to Guatemala, right? So they didn't send him to Guatemala. They sent him to El Salvador. The judge said, therefore, your application in the Kilmar case was granted for withholding, but it goes to the one country. So what are they saying here? They claim, among other things, well, there's different countries. So even though the judge wrote Guatemala, he also meant El Salvador, and he also meant South Sudan, and he meant everything else because our illegals want to stay in your country, says the ACLU. Each respondent claims, among other things, that the government would violate their due process if they didn't have sufficient notice about going to this new country that they just pull out of their butts. Soon after filing their complaint, they then got certified as a class. They filed a preliminary injunction. Respondents then moved for a TRO. The lunatic judge granted it. The First Circuit declined to stay, and now here we are. Then, on April 18th, the lower level judge granted their motion to be class action gangbangers and said everybody has to stay. The court first held that none of the jurisdictional bars apply. The judge says, well, I can do whatever I want in this case, and then revised the entire policy, changed everything that Homeland had set up. The First Circuit got the government request, didn't care. During this time, the district court also intervened and said, don't remove these people to third parties either. The government developed a bunch of additional procedures and removed them. We were in compliance with this judge's order. So we executed the removal, initiated them, sent them to the South Sudan. All of them were provided notice that they would be removed. All of them. None of them expressed any fear of being removed there. But that's only because they didn't have time to talk to the lawyers. The lawyers would have made them have a fear, you know? Now, here's another statement. All of these aliens have committed crimes, heinous in the United States. Unaliving people, arson, robbery with weapons, kidnapping, assault of mentally handicapped people, children, and more. But the judges love them. Moreover, because there are limitations on what we can do, some of these aliens were forced to be released previously forced to be released, which is what they want. They want them running around in the country, crashing into your daughters, eliminating them. Tragically, but predictably, some aliens then committed further crimes in this country. Yeah, such as one was convicted of attempted murder after his release, but they don't care. Respondent sought emergency relief, says, hey, you're sending our class gangbangers to the South Sudan. Filed their motion. The judge came back out, granted it. The next day, the court said, hey, you violated my injunction. They were not given enough time to raise their claims. The court said, well, I clarified this all, and meaningful opportunity was not like hours, which is plenty of time. It's to ask, are you afraid? How long does it take you to figure that out? 10 days? Like you need to sit on it? You need to read some books and journal on it? Go like on a long walk on the beach, use alien, pray about it. Am I even claims against torture? What are you talking? Ridiculous. As for the aliens in the process of being removed, who were and are being held at the military base in Djibouti, then they said, you got to take control of these people. And we read this earlier in a prior show, that the government must give them all an interview in private. They must ensure that they got 72 hours notice of that interview. They must get commensurate resources that they would have gotten in the United States. And of course, they're going to want the lawyers to appear on those. Now, they say this is ridiculous, Supreme Court. We're going to win on this, and you need to do something. This injunction that came down from this lower level judge exceeds his authority in numerous ways. First of all, the injunction violates the plain terms of the law of multiple jurisdictional bars. The INA that was not passed by Trump, it strips this court of jurisdiction. They can't issue these class-wide injunctions. One, they can't review claims that the government came out with after an interview or an analysis of claims against torture. Two, and they can't even adjudicate suits that are coming up from these removal proceedings. But the judge is doing all three of these things. All three are prohibited. And it effectively overrules the INA, which is what we're following. But in addition to not even having jurisdiction, this is kind of insulting to this judge, the merits analysis was also wrong. Like, first of all, he's an idiot or a dishonest, unethical judge because he shouldn't even be hearing this case, but he violated 3 rules in order to do that. And then when he did that, his decision is also idiotic. The March guidance that Homeland created gives way more ample process than even necessary. They got notice, opportunity to be heard. These people were already ordered removed, and they already had a chance to raise their claims. Okay, so by the way, this is a second attempt to raise a new claim. They've already had it, already been done. So again, it's like you go, you fight your speeding ticket because that cop's a liar and he didn't get you on his radar gun, and you lose. You complain your due process rights were violated, and the judge gives you another hearing in a more favorable court, in fact, and gives you 15 days to go meet with some amazing lawyers who are going to come in and help you do that. You get those privileges? No, because you're a citizen. Who do you think you are? The district court's decision to augment those procedures was policy making, not law. He's not allowed to do that. The Constitution assigns to the political branches the authority to design the laws and to decide what due process is due to those that violate them. They're not citizens, not even close. And the intrusion here is all the more intolerable because it disrupts sensitive diplomatic foreign policy and other national security interests that we're in charge of. And they give us more meat on these potatoes. As you can see, great details here. This class-wide injunction is illegal. 3 reasons. that we've talked about. This case forbids this, and this case does too. Now, in addition to the other order, it also violates claims against torture bars. No court shall have jurisdiction to review our decision. You can't substitute your judgment for Kristi Noem's because you're not Kristi Noem. The injunction runs afoul of these limits. And the lower level judge just ignored it, didn't even care, ignored it, and concluded that he can do what he wants and did what he wants. But he doesn't have jurisdiction and is misreading the entire statute. Now, in addition to the lack of jurisdiction, their other claims are terrible. Even if you say this judge doesn't have jurisdiction, or even if you say he does have jurisdiction, he's still going to lose this thing. The procedures for implementing the claims against torture process were totally valid. All class members here, by the way, all have final orders of removal. It's done. They had their trials. Cases are closed. They could file their claims for withholding or asylum or claims against torture or whatever. They had their shot. They didn't take it. It's done. All had the opportunity to raise these in their prior proceedings, voice any fears, and they didn't. The March guidance explains that the government provides these aliens with additional processes before they're actually removed. So we do it again in some way. The process is detailed below. It ensures an alien is going to be sent to the right country. We're not going to send them where they're going to be tortured. But the district court second-guessed everything and said, I don't like what you've done, and I'm going to substitute my judgment. Now, as noted, the March guidance says very clearly from Homeland, an alien may be removed to a country that has provided diplomatic assurances that aliens will not be persecuted or tortured. If the State Department finds that that's credible, that's the game. The alien may be removed without the need for further procedures, okay? If they find that country is safe, their diplomatic relations, they're not going to torture you. You've already had your claims against torture, and it's a new country. Great. We're done. You got everything you need. The Constitution requires nothing further. Indeed, this court has already held that, saying when the executive determines a country will not torture someone, that is conclusive. Hey, Supreme Court, pay attention. You said that back in 2008 in Munaf versus Guerin in the U.S. Supreme Court. And the D.C. Circuit also said that in 2009. They said federal courts may not question the government's determination that the recipient country is not likely to torture a detainee, because the courts aren't set up for that. The executive branch is. So they don't get to substitute their, well, I think the South Sudan is bad, or Nayib Bukele out of El Salvador is bad, or it's not your prerogative, Judge. You don't get to make that decision. You're not in the Secretary of State's office. Now, the district court at the lower level disagreed, said, well, I still want to do something here. It insists that you have to individually assess every single person and that you have to interview them one at a time. But this is not procedural due process at all, okay? This is not saying your process is bad. No, in fact, it's substantive due process. It's saying that you need to give them due process plus in America, and we don't have to do that. And what the judge did is irreconcilable with other Supreme Court precedent. But our proceedings and our process was perfectly constitutional. They offered no basis in law for any constitutional dictates that say we have to follow them. Like, where'd those come from? Where did the 10 and the 15 days come from that is suddenly now due process compliant? The judge just made it up out of his butt. To the contrary, they are inconsistent with established immigration law. Most analogous are other proceedings, and we're allowed to do this in other proceedings, but the district court didn't care about any of that. Hey, why is this case being treated differently than everyone else? He says, well, because my sense of fairness requires it, and I want them back in my chambers. Nor does the district court's preferred policy even make sense on its own terms, right? The injunction says all class members have to get at least 15 days to move to reopen proceedings after an adverse reasonable fear finding. Okay, so you say, I'm afraid. They say, no, you're not. You're not going to get attacked with your papooses down there. Calm down. 15 days to challenge that. The government They say, when we make an individualized assurance, we still have to wait? Hold on a minute. So then you're saying we have to talk to them and do like this really deep analysis and then wait after that? So what's the point of doing the thing? But if the government opts to take that course, the injunction still requires 2 weeks to do this. It is new. It's novel due process requirements. They just made it up. It shouldn't come from the courts. It's not allowed to. It comes from the executive branch. For aliens who've never been admitted, the decisions of the executive are all acting within the powers of Congress. That's who has the power to do it. Now, to this end, this court, the Supreme Court, has also applied the so-called entry fiction that all aliens who arrive at ports of entry are treated for due process purposes as if being stopped at the border. And this is indeed even in other places where they've entered and been here for years pending removal. The court has applied the entry fiction to aliens highly sympathetic in their claims to having entered, who have had significant ties to this country. But here they say, this court's precedent indicates that illegal aliens who evade detection in crossing the border should be treated the same as those who were stopped at the border in the first place. You don't get some benefit of the doubt because they broke in. Congress has codified a distinction by treating all aliens who have been admitted, including unlawful entrants who evade detections, as applicants for admission. Now that rule comports with the Constitution, and the Due Process Clause, there it is, does not provide a windfall for those who successfully circumvent our laws. They got notice that they're in the country illegally, they broke in illegally, they can't claim ignorance now, or something. It doesn't matter whether they were apprehended 25 yards into the territory or 25 miles into the territory, whether they evaded detection for 25 minutes or 25 years. They're not a class. They're all differently situated. And the Due Process Clause of our Constitution that they don't give a crap about does not give these aliens a constitutional entitlement to extra removal procedures beyond what's already been codified in the law. But that is precisely what this lunatic judge does. Again, the INA is silent as to any specific process that they must be afforded. The March guidance is the political branch's reasoned judgment as to what is valid, and it's not arbitrary. It's perfectly in alignment with all the other case law and precedent that the Congress has actually passed in statute and that the Supreme Court has handed down. The Constitution requires nothing further. We provided aliens ample process to validate their rights. And so you got to hear this case, Supreme Court. This injunction interferes with the executive branch, and you're intervening in a bunch of other cases here, right? We're knocking on the Supreme Court's door. You got to do something now, like enough of this game. Says Trump versus Wilcox. Trump won that one. Nome versus National TPS Alliance. Suck it. She won that one. Trump versus Sierra Club. Granting a stay of other cases and INS and more. This is a 1993 case back from O'Connor. Now, the same course is merited here, Supreme Court. You've acted to stop all that other insanity. Now it's time to do this here. Trump has determined that the millions of illegal aliens who have been released back into the United States present an immediate threat to our nation, and he has acted accordingly. Now, to combat this, the administration has engaged in, quote, an unprecedented effort to remove the illegals. And in turn, we've developed our policies to strike a balance between providing adequate process while ensuring that overdue expeditions in removals are happening. Now, the government is going to suffer irreparable harm if you don't act. Anytime our policy is blocked, that's an irreparable harm. Okay, just to be clear. Just so you know, John Roberts, you said that. Anytime a government's policy is blocked, that's a harm to the government. That harm is happening now, and they're particularly pronounced in this case, John Roberts. While the Constitution envisions that the political departments will be immune from judicial control in the immigration sphere, that's what the law says in 1977 case, the district court's injunction is the opposite. The judge is now superintending illegal alien removals, and as the episode with the South Sudan confirms, the injunction's open-ended terms allow for this judge to do whatever he wants. continually revise and reinvent his policy to serve his ends. Now, the court has indicated the same. He says, yeah, further things are going to change. Get ready for it. This is unworkable, Supreme Court. It was problematic enough for the court to write its own procedures, but it's simply untenable now for that project to be a work in progress where they continuously move the goalpost time and again. Now, the practical consequences of this underscore why the Constitution assigns immigration policy to the political branches, not to district court judges. As noted, this court's policy gives illegals 25 days worth of delay for every alien in the country, and they're all going to start filing claims, regardless of how frivolous the claim is. We've seen this with Papusa, Gang Boy. Because ICE often has only a short window to remove these people, these documents are not valid indefinitely, and this is going to scuttle the entire removal process. These operational burdens are high, and worse, the injunction has harmed foreign policy. Rubio explained this too, saying arranging a removal to a third country is a very delicate and diplomatic issue, and we had to stop in Djibouti, which is having serious consequences with the DOD and more. There are also severe costs in service of any public benefit as well. The United States has to send these people to third parties because their home countries won't even take them back. Absent an effective third-party removal policy, these vicious criminals have to stay in our country, which is what they want. The aliens sent to South Sudan are convicted offenders and unalivers. It is illustrative of the broader problem happening all across the country where our people are being killed. On the other side of the ledger, what is their harm? Well, the secretary already has assurances they're not going to be tortured, and they never made their claims in the first place, and they didn't make their claims in the second place either after we asked them again. So what's the harm? Neither the district court nor the gangbang lawyers have responded or identified any irreparable harm, nor could they, because their decisions are all on the same basis. They say no alien is going to be tortured. Any requirement for an individualized determination would identify that. Now, likewise, for aliens set to be removed to other countries, they had ample opportunity to raise their claims. And they've never justified why these added measures, like the 25 additional days, are going to forestall any irreparable harm. Now, that's especially so. There's no realistic risk that they're going to be tortured, and everything that we did was perfectly acceptable. And so, Supreme Court, if you're there, wake up. The Supreme Court should stay the district court's injunction. Stop this. The court should also enter an immediate administrative stay of the district court's injunction pending its consideration of this application. So, signed by D. John Sauer. And the Supreme Court could do something about this. We got an appendix and all the other lower level rulings, including from this judge, Judge Murphy, who was very unhappy with a lot of this stuff. Let's see what else they included in here. That was the Court of Appeals. And yeah, certifying the preliminary injunction. So up to the Supreme Court. Pam Bondi, Chad Mizell, very nice filing, and it is getting frustrating to see our Supreme Court not doing anything about this while we've got Americans being killed by illegals. And apparently, they get more process than she does. And Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts and their shifting standards for accepting cases is causing more of this to happen. And hopefully, they act. We're going to keep our eye on this case. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now let's turn our attention to another illegal, because we've got a battle brewing in the Kilmar case. And here is what this one sounds like as well. A motion to dismiss now filed in the Kilmar case. Remember that the Kilmar Armando wife-beater Abrego Garcia case was involving this dude who was sent to El Salvador appropriately, in our opinion. We've got all the documents here at watcherlodge.com, including this screenshot of the conclusion. Remember, the judge said, Guatemala is bad. He's not allowed to be in Guatemala because his mama went over there and her pupusa business was under attack in Guatemala. So he couldn't be sent to Guatemala. Well, that was back in 2019. And remember, Trump came out, issued the Alien Enemies Act, and sent him to El Salvador. Now, the DOJ and the fired attorney who was on this case at the very beginning, called Iraz Ruvani, said it was a mistake. We shouldn't have removed him to El Salvador. But obviously, as you can see in the document, that's not true. It says Guatemala. And the court has no jurisdiction over this at all. But the judge has ordered, essentially, discovery into this case. Remember, the judge on this matter was Judge Zenas. And Judge Zenas is very unhappy out of the District of Maryland. Paula Zenas was ordering him to be returned. The Supreme Court said facilitate his removal, but treat him as though he was not unlawfully removed, and he wasn't unlawfully removed, so there was no obligation to facilitate his return at all. But she was very unhappy with Trump, and she issued this screeching order. Let me show you what that was before we look at the motion to dismiss. Here's what Judge Zenas wrote in this very short filing, signed here by this judge. Says, today, Trump's DOJ, the very day that their answer or their response was due, they moved for a 30-day extension of the filing deadline, which we're going to read here in a minute. Rule 6B allows the court to extend deadlines for good cause before the original time expires, and I can grant this if I want to or not. It's my discretion. And you, Trump, have not expended any effort in demonstrating good cause. Trump filed a motion. So they vaguely complain in 2 sentences. They say, well, dear Judge Zenas, we're expending significant resources engaging in expedited discovery. She says, what? These are your own burdens of their own making. I ordered expedited discovery into you, Trump, for refusal to follow my orders, as affirmed by the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. Hilarious, because that's not what they said at all. They didn't affirm your orders, and they definitely didn't affirm your expedited discovery orders either, lunatic. Further, as the docket plainly demonstrates, did she even read it? Did you read it? Defendants are intimately familiar with the causes of action and the deadline. She says, this is so funny. She's so mad. She knows she can't do anything, and she knows that the Supreme Court did not do this, just to be clear. She says the court has conducted no fewer than 5 hearings in this case, and at no points has you guys ever intimated that you needed more time. So to now say that you need more time, it rings hollow. And so your request is denied. Answer your complaint and do it today. So like, all right, fine. We'll send our little filing in. But you can see 5 hearings. Like that in and of itself shows you, she's like, I just keep dragging you in here. Hearing after hearing after hearing after hearing. She's like, you're not doing what I'm asking you to do because you have no power, Judge, because the Supreme Court didn't say that what you did was affirmed at all. In fact, you can read it the opposite, which is how the Trump administration did. And that's why the Supreme Court has been so pathetic. Just give us an answer one way or another, because you're claiming victory and we're claiming victory and we've both got our arguments. And by the way, how come the Supreme Court has not come down and said, bring Kilmar back? Unequivocally. Why'd they have to couch it with all of those other conditional phrases? Because they're not ordering Trump to do it, obviously. And by the way, he was lawfully sent to El Salvador. So she sent that in, man. She's mad. You can see, like when judges are underlining 5 hearings, she's mad. And she knows she's got no power. So Trump sent this one in a motion to dismiss the Kilmar case, sending this to Judge Zenas. All right, you want our filing? You got it, sister. Plaintiff Abrego wife beater human trafficker Garcia, MS-13 gang member, is a Salvadorian national who was removed to El Salvador, and his wife and child have sued because they want relief. They sued in Maryland after he ended up in El Salvador, and he is allowed to be in El Salvador because the actual order of removal, it's right here on your screen. In the conclusion, that's the full conclusion, it says you can't send him to Guatemala, and his claim against torture fails because he's not shown that he would suffer torture, and that was talking about El Salvador. So he was lawfully sent to El Salvador. You can read the full thing, watcherlodge.com if you want to. and the judge should read it again. But Pam Bondi and the DOJ say the following. Now, the gangbang lawyers say that Abrego was unlawfully removed to El Salvador despite a grant of withholding from removal to that country. And it wasn't for that country. It was for Guatemala. I just showed it. This court should dismiss the claims because this judge lacks jurisdiction over it. Here's why. When you consider a motion to dismiss, the complaint's allegations, we assume them to be true. So Kilmar sued. We'll just say, for the benefit of the doubt, we're going to hold everything in a light most favorable to you. So all questions of facts will resolve in your favor. If they're all true and you still lose, your case has to be dismissed. Now, Plaintiff Abrego Garcia is a citizen and native of El Salvador. Plaintiff Jennifer Vasquez, who got her head beat in by him twice, and his wife and child are also here. But two of those kids are Jennifer's kids, and one of them, I think, was birthed by the both of them. And I bring that up because Jennifer, in her complaints, where she was begging for somebody to come help her, to have this gangbanger stop beating her and threatening her kids and locking them in closets and screeching off in the car, squealing the tires and all the things, she said in her filings for orders of protection to stop the abuse that they were my kids. I took my kids. Just to be clear, Abrego Garcia violated U.S. law. He broke into our country in 2011 without inspection. Then in March of 2019, Abrego was served notice to appear in removal proceedings. They said, you're inadmissible. You're an alien in our country without being admitted, and you arrived in violation of the law. So then he challenged this. He got some lawyers. On April 24th, Abrego Garcia appeared for his first hearing in immigration court and moved for release on bond. Okay, says, I'm not a gangbanger. I'm just an innocent illegal. Let me out. No, this is due process. So for all the lefty media out there, pay attention. During a bond hearing, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement stated that local police had verified through an informant that Abrego was an active member of MS-13. And a danger to the community. There was a whole hearing on it. In fact, ICE provided a gang field sheet interview generated by the police, which explained the rationale behind the belief that he was a gang member. After a review of the evidence, the judge denied Abrego Garcia's bond request. He then filed an application for an asylum, withholding of removal, and a protection under claims against torture. And the withholding of the removal, let's see, the hearing took place, boom, for him individually. That's due process. Don't even need a hearing, but gosh, that's like a clear indicator of due process. You could have due process, filing a form out, somebody reviewing the form, I analyze this, and check it out. Okay, that's a process, and that might be the only process that you're due. Here, he had a full hearing. Took place on August 9th, and again in 2019. A judge called an immigration judge made an independent review and found him removable. But I can't believe they keep saying this. Granted him withholding of removal to El Salvador. And what are they citing there for that? I think that is wrong. I think they're reading that wrong. Unless they give us a form. Here it is. It says, Guatemala. Homeland is not shown that it was Guatemala, and his claims against torture, it makes me so mad that the Homeland is still sticking with this. You can read the full filing down here on our page from David M. Jones. And let me just pull it up right here just to show you. This was the appeal, actually. That was not even the real one. Let me just show you, I think, where they're making this mistake, because I think this is important to spend an extra second on. This was part of the filing here from the judge, the removal proceedings. The individual hearing dates, August 9th and September 27th. They say he's a respondent and native of El Salvador. Now, they may have applied for all of this, right? He applied to not go to El Salvador. But you go through the full thing, and they tell us mom ran a pupusa business out of her home, right? This was the pupusa case. And she left. She actually went over to Guatemala. And you see that here. At present, right here. okay, when the judge wrote this, even though the family has now shut down the pupuseria business, Barrio 18 continues to harass his sisters and parents in Guatemala. So as you go on through this, right, the family is currently in Guatemala. They're not in El Salvador. Now, you can file claims for asylum. He loses the asylum claim because he was in the country for like a decade and then filed. So he's got a 1-year filing deadline, so he loses that. Withholding of removal. If you want withholding of removal, you have to show certain things, right? Past persecution. You have to show past persecution. Or you have to show well-founded fear of prosecution. And Homeland, they write, failed to show that Guatemala would be where he is not attacked, right? In Guatemala. Now, how did he find Guatemala? Because his family was in Guatemala, and you have to have a nexus to a protected ground, right? If he's in El Salvador, what is the protected reason for him being in El Salvador that would make him at risk? His family's pupusa business. The family didn't have a pupusa business in El Salvador. They were in Guatemala. And so you have to ascertain whether membership in a family group is the reason for the protection. Clearly, the evidence in this case indicates that one reason he was in persecution was because of his nuclear family. Where was the nuclear family? In Guatemala. This is central to the whole holding. The court finds that his proposed social group is immediate members of the Abrego family. That's the group, the nuclear family. So he has to have protection wherever the family is. Everyone knew that Cecilia had a pupusa business, and this is a socially distinct class. So since the family is in Guatemala, he cannot go to Guatemala. Now, there is relief for removal under claims against torture, right? So then he says, well, don't send me to El Salvador either. Torture is defined as the following. In assessing this, the court must consider all of this. Instances of police brutality are not enough. Fourth Circuit said this and blah, blah, blah. Here, respondent has not, this is Abrego, respondent has not shown that it is more likely than not that he would be tortured if he went to El Salvador. Okay, El Salvador. There is no torture for you in El Salvador. The judge found that, which means you can go to El Salvador. So in conclusion, it's the full thing. And the DOJ, like, this makes me so mad at Pam Bondi and the rest of what they're doing over there. Read the order, for crying out loud. We've done it 5 times here. The respondent's application for asylum, no protections. It's time barred. However, has found that past prosecution could happen, and Homeland has not shown that Guatemala, that there is something better in Guatemala that means he would not be under attack there. So therefore, his claim for withholding is granted as to Guatemala. There is nothing in this decision that says that El Salvador is bad for him anywhere. In fact, his claim against torture for El Salvador failed specifically. And this judge, and the DOJ can't wrap their head around this for whatever reason. This is wrong. Just read the order. On March 12th, Abrego was stopped by ICE, who informed him that his immigration status has changed. After being detained, he was questioned about gang affiliations and transferred to Texas. 3 days later, Abrego Garcia told his wife that I'm going to El Salvador. And that's when they freaked out, right? They thought he was going somewhere else, but they don't want him in CCOT. Then they filed a complaint against the defendants, asserting that we violated his due process rights. It's not right. Plaintiffs also assert that this was arbitrary and capricious, and it wasn't at all. It was perfectly lawful. El Salvador is where he belongs. A federal court is obliged to dismiss a case whenever it appears you lack jurisdiction, and you do that here. Judge Zenas, the court must dismiss this claim because taking all factual allegations as true, you don't even have jurisdiction over this case. This court lacks jurisdiction for a couple reasons. One, Abrego is not in the United States custody. His injury is not redressable by us, and this statute literally deprives you of your jurisdiction. These arguments are not foreclosed by prior rulings in these other cases either, in the Nome case or in the Abrego case, in connection with these motions. Those decisions do not squarely address these jurisdictional issues, and so they're not binding. Now, this court lacks jurisdiction for a couple reasons. One, he's not in the United States. Though plaintiffs bring 4 claims under habeas, he's in El Salvador, and habeas is when you're here. Because the plaintiff makes a core habeas claims, you must bring your case exclusively in habeas, which is what the Supreme Court said too. But the suit is only proper against the immediate custodian, which is the warden of CCOT, and in the jurisdiction of El Salvador. He's being held down there, which means you don't have any right over this case, and you should dismiss this. Now, habeas corpus is the appropriate remedy to determine whether somebody is being unlawfully detained. And precedent confirms that core habeas claims like this one must be brought in habeas. Here, Abrego and his lawyers seek review of the legality of the executive's restraint and removal of Abrego, leading to his present detention there. They make clear they want him coming back to the United States, which is insane. They also bring a claim saying that habeas is the appropriate vehicle under this other provision. Now, because they want him to be released, saying that his detention was effectuated illegally, they are making a habeas claim. There is no jurisdiction for you, judge, in habeas. They admit that Abrego is being held in custody in El Salvador. They acknowledge that we don't have the power to produce him. And they don't even assert that we can exercise our will over a foreign power. The most they ask for, like they even admit, they just want the judge to order the United States to request his relief. Okay, this is how far down this has gone. This judge knows she doesn't have the power to do this. They know it too. They want the court to order the president to do something. Yeah, right. This is not custody on which this can run. This court lacks jurisdiction. And even if this law, the writ, were to run to his custody in El Salvador, meaning we could file a habeas even though we don't actually have him, the court remains that the writs act not on the detainee, but the custodian. Thus, the custodian, with the power to produce Abrego, must be physically within the court's jurisdiction. So it's not even about him per se. It's also about the custodian. But the only challenge, the only defendant alleged to be within the jurisdiction of this is Nikita Baker, some other person. And no allegation is being made about defendant Baker, who has custody to produce this guy to the court. And the court also previously rejected the application in another case because Abrego is not being held for crimes committed anywhere and his claims don't implicate any question of sovereign interest. But the point remains, the jurisdiction of the nation within its own territory is exclusive and absolute. They don't even dispute this. They admit that their claims implicate competing sovereign interests. They acknowledge he's down there in El Salvador. They ask the court to order defendants to immediately request that the government release him, even though they might decline this. But they haven't shown an injury here. They bear the burden of showing that there's a concrete and particularized injury. This is the motion to dismiss the Kilmore case. They failed to satisfy their burden on redressability. Like there's nothing we can do about this. That failure means you don't have jurisdiction over this. The courts just can't hear cases over which they can't do anything. Then that's just like an advisory opinion. Of course, well, I guess that sounds like it's a bad thing happening to you, but I can't fix it. The failure means the court lacks jurisdiction. Since you can't fix this case, you can't hear it. They don't have standing to be here. Abrego asserts that when he was injured, when he was removed from the United States, they say he's suffering harm every day. They request this court declare the actions violated federal law. They want a declaration of a Fifth Amendment violation. They want an immediate request for his release. And if they decline that request, they want an order that Trump takes all steps to return him to the United States. The dude's an illegal. But none of the plaintiffs requested relief would address this injury because he's in a separate sovereign, his home country. Our point is simple. Even if they make every effort to return, as they're doing, the success of those efforts depend on the choices of an independent actor not before this court system. And so for that reason, it's speculative that directing defendants to facilitate Abrego's concern would redress this injury. And this court has already rejected this argument before, saying it's their burden to prove that jurisdiction exists here. While the Fourth Circuit does not define exactly what facilitation requires, it rejected the argument that it requires only removing domestic barriers. And they've said there's not going to be any domestic barrier. If Kilmarsh shows up at a port of entry, they'll just pick him up and remove him again. Finally, this court lacks jurisdiction to remove this because the law says so. 8 U.S. Code says, no court shall have any jurisdiction to hear any cause or claim about decisions on removal. You don't get to substitute your judgment for Kristi Noem's. Here, they say that Abrego's removal was executed without following the law. But this court previously held that this law did not strip its jurisdiction because it could not credit that the removal is only a pure question of law. But we removed him pursuant to a lawful order, whether or not he had been served a warrant for removal. Plaintiffs themselves attached to their complaint a copy of the order, finding that he was removable and granting him withholding of removal to El Salvador. That's in Exhibit A. Ooh, let's see if that's there. All right, we'll come back to that. The order thus authorizes his removal to any country except El Salvador. It says here, they're citing another complaint in a separate U.S. case, saying if an immigration judge grants an application for withholding of removal, he prohibits DHS from removing that alien to that particular country, but not from the United States. And we removed him on that basis. Second, the Fourth Circuit has also held that this section of the law does not apply to other agency interpretations. They say that Abrego's removal to El Salvador after he was granted withholding to that country, but not the validity of the removal order itself, right? So they just did not like El Salvador, even though we just read it's Guatemala. Plaintiffs challenged the discretionary actions to where to send Abrego. Their claim arising from the decision to send him to El Salvador is not a pure question of law. And so the claims here prohibit the court from hearing them. You can't fix this. Same attorney, Drew Ensign, not even making the argument about Guatemala. Man, wish I had Drew's cell phone number. Give him a call. But all right, so that's what they sent in on the motion to dismiss. Let's see if that exhibit is there, because I would love to see the exhibit that they keep saying says El Salvador from Pam Bondi. Here's what it looks like. Motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. Did they file that under seal? Oh, it's not there. Great. So it's not on the docket. Right here, the motion to dismiss. Where's the exhibit? Amazing. This amazing document that says El Salvador. Clearly, never anywhere to be found. Incredible. But they keep just buying it. Makes me so frustrated. Thanks for attaching it so that we could all see it. I don't think it exists. I still don't think it exists. The order says Guatemala. So what's happening on this case is Democrat psychos are going down there to meet with their constituents. Here was one person called Representative Glenn Ivey says, today I was denied access to seeing my constituent, wife beater Abrego, who beats actual constituents in America, namely his wife. If there is nothing to hide, cut the crap. Let his lawyer and I check on him. So here is another congressman who probably just wanted to go down there and have some mojitos. You know, it's kind of like a campaign expense trip down there, nice, see some scenery, go down to El Salvador, have some mojitos, hang out with some pupusas, and do whatever you want to do. Here's this rep and have some mojitos. It's kind of like whoa, that's me speaking. Campaign expense. Where's that coming from? Rumble. All right, here is this.
I'm the congressman that represents Kilmar. I came all the way down from the United States after we contacted their ambassador, after we'd made formal requests to our ambassador to the El Salvadoran government. And we came here to visit him today. And now they're telling us we got to go all the way back to El Salvador, to San Salvador to get a permit. That's ridiculous. We ought to have a chance to come in and visit. They knew we were coming. They knew why we were coming. And they know we have the right to do this. So they need to just cut the crap. Let us get in there and have a chance to see him and talk with him. We got his lawyer here. We got somebody from the unions here to talk with him. Let us in. Stop playing games. Let us have a chance to talk with him.
This is a different country, dude. Go get a permit. Who do you think you are? You're not Rep. Monica McIver. You don't get to just belly slam people and get access. You think this is Washington, D.C., and you have congressional approval down there? No. His lawyer can go through the El Salvadorian people and get access that way. But Homeland is explaining this. Congressman Kilmar Abrego is a confirmed MS-13 gang member, wife beater, human trafficker, and illegal alien from El Salvador. He's not your constituent, psycho congressperson. While the mainstream media and all politicians are fighting to bring a foreign terrorist and gang member back to the U.S. soil, Trump and Kristi Noem are fighting for the victims of alien crime and putting the safety of Americans first. Sent in by Homeland, and the motion to dismiss also submitted in the Abrego case. We'll fast forward. Judge Zenas will deny this, and we'll take it from there up on appeal. The Supreme Court could come in here and stop a lot of this too. They won't, because every day that these attacks are enabled, we have more dead Americans being killed by illegals from Venezuela, from El Salvador, from various parts of the world. But Judge Zenas and the Democrats are perfectly okay with this insanity happening. In fact, the Democrats will send people down to visit the people who are doing the killing. Incredible behavior from the Democrats. We hope they keep it up, because they're on the wrong side of history, the wrong side of the country. But I think they know the only class that they have left are, I guess, the 20 million illegal aliens that they invaded in. So maybe he is his constituent, because the rest of us don't matter to them. Illegals get due process plus. We'll see what this motion to dismiss looks like in response when the gangbang lawyers respond. And then Zenas will, of course, dismiss it, but we'll take it from there. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. We got one final update on the day, and then we'll hear from you. Stephen Miller in the White House, not playing around anymore, saying it's time to supercharge the illegal alien arrests and deportations, which sounds good to us because we're pretty sick and tired of illegals killing people in America. I've been tired of it for about 39 years now, and longer than that for all of us. But Bill Melugin shared this. Here are mugshots of two illegal alien Venezuelans who killed this nice, beautiful young woman who was a U.S. Air Force cadet. Just happened this past weekend. Pretty shocking. Bill Melugin shared a mugshot has been released for these two murderers, charged in a fatal jet ski hit and run of an 18-year-old U.S. Air Force cadet candidate called Ava Moore in Texas on Sunday. May she rest in peace, and God bless her family. Police say 21-year-old Dakerlin Alejandra Gonzalez struck Moore with her jet ski, then fled the scene in a vehicle with another Venezuelan illegal alien, 21-year-old Michael Coelho Perozzo, and they hit another car while they were fleeing around. Both have now been arrested by Texas authorities, and they're being prosecuted. Absolutely disgusting. And just to be clear about this, there are federal judges who are enabling this type of misconduct. We want to identify the illegals and get them out. If Trump could have been doing this unimpeded from day one, this literally could have been avoided. I don't know if it would have been avoided. I don't know if these two people would have been rounded up and deported or not. But this woman could still be alive with us here and could have been an amazing Air Force pilot at some day in our future. Not anymore. Because judges like Brian Murphy from Massachusetts, Paula Zenas from Maryland, Judge Boasberg in D.C., and the rest of them are perfectly okay with this happening. And Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts are enabling this by refusing to act. They've got blood on their hands if this continues. And maybe they do now, because they can allow us to stop this from happening. Here is what is coming next from Ken Paxton. He says, we've arrested an illegal for killing Ava Moore and another illegal connected to her death. And my office is going to continue with local, state, and national law enforcement partners to secure justice for this young woman. Saying Paxton has announced the arrest of an illegal alien suspected of killing a woman kayaking on Lake Grapevine over the weekend, out just getting a workout in. And another illegal who helped her flee the scene of the crime. On Sunday, An illegal from Venezuela struck and killed an 18-year-old woman with a jet ski, fled the scene with a male illegal alien, subsequently committing another hit and run after striking another vehicle. Paxton's fugitive apprehension unit tracked down, arrested the illegals connected to the crimes, working with Texas Parks, Wildlife, and more. They got him. Ava Moore's senseless death was caused by an illegal alien who should have never been in our country in the first place. My heart breaks for Ava's family and friends, me too, and my prayers are with them as they face this tragedy. My office will continue to work with local, state, and national law enforcement partners to secure justice for Ava. Signed here by Ken Paxton. And we're very tired of all this crap going on constantly. Stephen Miller leading the way, saying, all right, in a tense meeting last week, Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem, they sat everybody down. They said, hey, listen up. It's time to supercharge this game. We want 3,000 people a day arrested. Get out there and do it. The new target is triple the number of the daily arrests that agents were making in the early days of Trump's term, and it suggests that the president's top immigration officials are full steam ahead in pushing for mass deportations. The increased pressure on agents comes as border crossings have plummeted. Thank God. It also comes as the president is now using heavy-handed tactics. What do you mean, enforcing the law? Get out of here. Miller, the White House deputy chief of staff and the leading architect, laid into top immigration officials. I would have loved to have been live streaming that meeting. Definitely have popcorn for that one. According to four people familiar with the meeting, Miller demanded that field office directors and special agents in charge get arrest and deportation numbers up as much as possible, pointing to the wave of unauthorized immigrants who were entering the United States back during Biden. We got to go, baby. We got to go fast. I mean, there's a good argument that the game is already over. You know, if you let in 20 to 30 million people over 4 years, they'll have babies. Demographics is destiny. Let's say the 14th Amendment citizenship is interpreted erroneously by our corrupt Supreme Court. All you got to do is wait a couple generations, right? And the whole fabric of the country shifts by design. So the idea is you got to deport the illegals or else our country will be gifted to the generation of illegal aliens and not gifted to your children as citizens. Noem took a milder approach, though, is pushing for more arrest, is soliciting feedback from ICE leaders. Special government employee Corey Lewandowski also spoke. Sounds like a great meeting. Miller's directive and tone had people leaving the meeting feeling their jobs could be in jeopardy if the new targets aren't reached. Yeah, get to work. Two of the sources said. A third person said Miller was trying to motivate people with a harsh tone. He was doing the Stephen Miller thing. Says it's not the first time that Miller has yelled at senior officials about this. Immigration officers have almost 49,000 people in custody, significantly more in detention than what Congress has appropriated funding to accommodate, right? So that's why they don't want them deported. If you deport them, then you'll free up space here to fill it with more people. So you got to, it's like you want to plug the leak of the illegals if you're the Democratic Party. Trump is carrying out flights. Border area deportations are lower because fewer migrants are coming across. Capitol Hill Republicans are trying to find $147 billion to help this, working on providing more money to ramp up deportations. God, think about that. If they just wouldn't have let him in, we would have a real country and not have to spend money to care for all of the illegals, but then also pay to remove them out. Just secure it the first time. It's like so sick what they did to us. In the meantime, Homeland and ICE have begun posting official requests for additional staffing, bed space, and resources, including in New Jersey, saying we're keeping Trump's promise. We're going to deport people and we're going to go fast. Advocates have warned that if ICE gets more money and resources, more Americans and legal immigrants will be wrongfully detained and possibly deported. Yeah, I'm sure because there's an epidemic of that. Yeah. Trump and VP Vance have made clear they want to run the largest deportation operation in the country's history, 1 million a year, which is a good start. So that is happening. Tom Homan was asked about this on with Fox News and Laura Ingraham, and here is what the Borders Czar had to say.
AOC went on social media saying if we put a finger on any of her co-workers or Congress people that were at our Newark facility, there'd be consequences. Well, guess what? We did it. I'm waiting on the consequences. But, you know, the mayor's no different. And look, I've said from day one, you can not cooperate with ICE if that's what you want to do, but you can't get in our way and you can't impede our efforts, or you cross that line, we'll seek prosecution. As far as the belonging fund that he's supporting, I have my own belonging fund. We can give housing, food, and free medical care in ICE detention. And that's exactly what we're going to do in Nashville. We're going to flood the zone with agents, multi-agency, FBI, DEA, ICE, U.S. Marshals, and we're going to flood the zone.
Get them all. We're tired of having our citizens murdered when they're kayaking on skis, by jet skis, driven by illegal aliens who then flee the sea and hit other people on the way out. So the surge is underway. We're happy to see it. Time to supercharge these deportations. Get those numbers up. All right. What a beautiful day and a beautiful stream it has been, my friends. If you're just joining us, we covered some good stuff. We went to the Supreme Court today, spent some time there in the Judge Brian Murphy's case when he's saying all these illegals have to come home and give them all these special protections and more. Trump going to the Supreme Court, asking them to step in and do something. We then read through the motion to dismiss in the Kilmar case and saw how they still say that he was unlawfully sent to El Salvador, despite there being no evidence of that, even on the record, even in their own motion. She says it's attached as attachment A, but don't see any attachments over there. Must be under seal because we can't see it. So we got that. Then we also talked about the supercharging of the deportation arrests and deportations and the killing of Ava Moore by two illegals. May she rest in peace. These stories actually make me just boil in rage because we could have been doing something about this and prevented this, at least for the last several months. But our courts are perfectly okay with this lawlessness. They'll just chalk it up. It's an accident. They should have never been here. So just take them out of the equation. She's not dead. Simple as they can't figure it out because they went to Harvard or something and they're much smarter than we are. All right, my friends, what a beautiful day it has been and an amazing stream. Thank you for your support. I see we got some great super chats and donos here. Thanks for being a part of the conversation and for supporting our work here. We're very glad that you're here. Also, this weekend on Saturday, a reminder, ericshouse.org. Your boy is hosting a virtual tour. So come join us, log on. I think it's going to be on a Zoom. So we'll get to see each other or stuff. And, it'll be fun. Check it out. We'd love to have your support. Make my mama very happy if you show up. So thanks for coming and joining us. And it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about hope and healing. It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, my friends. Thanks for being here. Ronald Swisher. Great to see you, Ronald Swisher. Thank you for becoming a member. We'll see you on the members only streams in the mornings and on the after party shortly. Ronald Ravicus is here. This is why the Doge cuts are not in the big, beautiful package. It's a rule that it would have to be done by a rescission package or an appropriations package. Got it. More details from Stephen Miller. When he's not screaming at Homeland to make more arrests, he's also educating us on the big bill. What's up? Don is here. SCOTUS is sitting on its hands and costing lives. That's how I feel. Don got me pretty fired up today. You guys, what are you doing? We have a country. You have more dead people. Linda Solander, what's up, Linda? Thank you for becoming a membo. We'll see you on the after party. We had a great members only stream this morning. We deliver for our membos here. What's up, Patty B Photography? Stop the presses. Yeah, today is my 1-year anniversary. Happy anniversary to us, Patty B Photography. I officially became a membo 1 year ago today. Shout out to our anniversary. Happy anniversary, Patty B Photography. Very nice to see you. And thank you for being here. Thanks for the dono. And thanks for joining us on locals. Harold Greer is here. Harold, thank you, Harold, for bringing in 5 new membos in the house. We got Adeline Starr coming in. Veronica N. Welcome. Philip Callan. We got Brian Clark and Barb Wood. Gifted membos, courtesy of Harold Greer. Thank you, Harold, for bringing in 5 new membos. This one came in from Trumpinator on YouTube. Thank you, Trumpinator. Says, yes, it's a coup. Who needs a president when you have judges? Yeah, they can just control everything. And good news for us, though, is that the judges are operating with a sense of fairness for illegal aliens in our country. Yeah. Thank you, Trumpinator. Ravicus says, it's more than a judicial coup. It is treason. And it's Buzz Lightyear with Woody. Treason. Treason everywhere. It's like the Democrats explaining that to the American citizen. That's how it is. Democrat. No, we're going to wreck your whole country. You're going to love it. Thank you, Ravicus. Hey, Alana Noble. Rob, how is it that Obama removed 3 million illegal immigrants over his 8 years and we heard nothing? What's different about this? Well, it's Trump. And I think the plan, I don't know if it was in full effect back during the Obama years. The other thing we got to keep in mind with those numbers is that there were a lot more people coming in. Like, it's easy to remove hundreds of thousands if there's a couple million coming in. Like, okay, 10 million come in, you deport 1 million. You're like, we deported a lot. You let in 9. Like, the net is a lot. So we're going to have a lot, I think, lower, because we got to go find them and get them out. Like, they're not coming in droves and we're just cataloging them and turning back 20%. They're just not coming anymore. So we got to go get them. So like the numbers that we come to are going to be a lot harder gets than the old numbers. Alana, is it possible that Maduro, Venezuela president, released prisoners from his jail and helped them cross our border? I think it's probably true. Yeah. They won't take him back. I don't have any strong evidence of that, but I mean, I think that's kind of been the hint. That's why Rubio and the rest of them declared or actually invoked the Alien Enemies Act and issued that proclamation because there was a close relationship between the two. And the Venezuelan illegals just killed Ava. Hey, Jason, clean, safe energy, the best kind. Thank you, Jason, for coming in and joining us as a membo. Hey, Sheila the Pooh, 1 million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila. Check this out. We got 10 friends coming in, courtesy of Sheila. She says, Ross Allen, you're a membo. Joe Masters, Digon Illy. We got Keith Cafe. What's up, Crimlon? David Wood Mancy, Far Isle, Bent Fork Prospecting is here. Larry Stout and Victor Marcano, all gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Pooh. 1 million hugs to you. Thank you for doing that. This one is here from Gen X Ben. Wow. All right. Hey, Rob, it's time for me to go back to the future. This time it's to bring my wife home. I leave Saturday. Have a great evening, all. Wow. It sounds like it's going to be a far out experience, Gen X Ben. Sounds like you travel a lot through time, so it doesn't sound like it's a big deal. But bring your wife home. I hope you have a great experience. Tell all the dimensions we say hello and be safe. Hey, Andrew Humans. If the judge causes the criminal aliens to be released within the U.S., they should all be released in that judge's district. Yeah, well, I mean, the judge can send his daughter jet skiing with them. See how he likes it. See if that works out for him. Hey, it's King of Biltong. Get your biltong, my friends. If you like your biltong, you can go to biltongusa.com. And they even created a promo code with my name over there. Amazing. Shout out to King of Biltong. Looks like packed with good stuff. Go check it out over there. Gen X Ben says, I'm going to the Philippines. 13 hours ahead there. Oh. So you're not like going 88 miles per hour in a DeLorean with a flux capacitor. You're going on like a Boeing 747. Got it. Safe travels in the Philippines. The Bronx, what's up? Can we send the ACLU to the South Sudan? Well, they basically are alien enemies. I mean, they represent alien enemies more than they care about any American values at all. So hopefully their funding is completely cut. Don't know if that's happened yet. But yeah, at least the illegal alien ACLU members, definitely. Michelle Young, what's up, Michelle? Thanks for becoming a membo and supporting us. We'll see you on the members only stream. And grab the one from this morning too. Sheila Pooh says, SCOTUS better take this up and decide right. Yeah. Maybe if they would attach, the picture of Ava, then it would realize what they're doing. Hey, Amy Coney Barrett, look what you're doing to America. Doan, Trump running circles around the Article 3 hacks proves the founders' intentions of the judicial branch's unelected inferiority to the elected branches. Yeah, the Supreme Court. You want to pay some honor and respect to the Supreme Court, but you only pay them honor and respect if they're due that. if they're acting like maniacs who are not upholding the Constitution, we owe them nothing. Nothing. I'm not going to give them any old historical due deference if they're undermining the Constitution right now. Just because they're judges in black robes doesn't mean we owe them respect by default. They earn it by following the Constitution. They're accountable to us just like every other branch via different mechanisms, but they rely on us believing they're credible for them to function. And our respect is directly related to their respect for them, to their respect of our Constitution. And the usurpation of our will must be met with scorn and ridicule and absolute contempt, because that's the only currency that matters to them. Money bag swag man, because they're appointed for life. There's no other recourse. So we have to obliterate them in the court of public opinion until they wake up. Money bag swag man. What's up, money bag swag man? Thanks for becoming a member. Sheila Poo says, Congress needs to call these judges in and push them hard. Defund the districts that are causing the chaos. Yeah, that's true too. Congress could do something, but what are they going to do? Don't. It appears that specially selected hack judges are voluntarily flying kamikaze missions into their own aircraft carriers. Yeah, they know that there's not going to be any repercussions. They know Congress is basically muted. And so this is their big, they'll wait out the next 4 years of Trump. These are little insurrectionist judges who are just digging in for 4 years thinking that they'll have a payoff on the back end. It's political. Hey, Jigum Gigum. Like, guys, a little careful scroll on that one. I don't know what the heck. Okay, here we go. What? Is this for real? I think it is. Jigum. Okay, Jigum says, hey, happy toes. Just got home from foot reconstruction surgery and all went well. Happy toes. And apparently these are Jigum's actual toes for your viewing pleasure. There they are. Jigum's actual foot. Jigum, your actual foot. Man, that looks like a serious cast. So I'm hopeful that you're not in pain. Hopefully that's going well. And I'm glad that you're back. I'm glad you're out of that, man. That's a very fun GIF. Wasn't expecting that one today. Hey, Navy Styles. What's up, Navy Styles? Thanks for becoming a membo and supporting our work here, my man. We'll see you on the membo streams. You two membos, remember to go back to the channel homepage. As soon as we end here, about 2 minutes, come back and we'll see you for the members only after party. What's up, Fred Pedamonte? Is it really possible only Rob knows it was Guatemala? Yes, it is. Listen, I'll come and say it was El Salvador. I'll show it to you. I would have said right here on the show, if the order was attached to this document, they said it was attached, okay? If the order was attached, as soon as we see the document that says El Salvador, I'll share it here. I'll say, oh, there it is. Now it all makes sense. But that document, as far as I've seen, doesn't exist. It's not anywhere to be found. The only documents that we see are the ones that say Guatemala. The immigration judge found him removable, but granted him withholding to El Salvador, referencing ID. So that's another ID. And where is that coming from? Goes back to, I don't know where he's citing exactly. ICE provided a gang sheet, see ID paragraphs to El Salvador. And I think they said that there was an attachment, right? Where was that attachment portion of this? Without being admitted, MS-13 gang sheet, ICE officers, legal standard. Let's look at the facts of this case. I think it was down here. Federal court, Fifth Amendment, Abrego's return. Yeah, I don't know where exactly it was. I thought that I highlighted it. Maybe it was down here. No, I don't know where it is. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's just Guatemala. I think they read it wrong. And if they come back out and they show us an actual order, I'd love to see it. Just show it to us. And just to be clear, like my argument is right anyways, just to be clear, like you can just read the order. Even if the judge could have come down and signed an order that is out of alignment with his conclusion, right? The conclusion says Guatemala, it's right there. So any lawyer, like, and other lawyers, if the, you'd have to acknowledge this. Even if it does say El Salvador, Trump's lawyers and the DOJ should have made the argument that it said Guatemala, because in the conclusion, it says Guatemala. Okay, so even if there is another piece of paper that says El Salvador, they could have said, well, we read what the judge wrote in the conclusion, which is Guatemala. So you would even make that argument, right? Even if that argument was wrong, you would still make it. Rather than the alternative is to say, we made a mistake and we illegally deported somebody to the wrong country. You would just say, no. Okay, your written order, even if there's an order that says El Salvador, if I'm on this case, I would still say, I don't care what the order says. The logic of your conclusion says Guatemala, and his family's in Guatemala under attack by pupusas. His claim against torture failed in the other El Salvador case. So like I read the order and we interpreted what you wrote. I would have never said we had made an administrative error and we should have sent him to the right country. It's ridiculous. So even if there is that other order, they still, I say, is basically malpractice for not making that argument. You never admit you were wrong. So even if there is another document that comes out, like I'm still going to say they made the wrong argument, because the order and the conclusion are right there for everybody to read. It's not even a question. Doan says self-entitlement by that representative is certifiably insane. Like you just show up to foreign jails and they let you in? Are you crazy? Well, we told them we were coming. No one cares. Go get your permit. Get out of here. Thank you, Doan. Tim, hey, still wondering why the DOJ hasn't filed insurrection charges against these radical judges. Yeah, something. Maybe those are coming. Hopefully the investigations are underway. FD Man says, SCOTUS, why are you gay? Good question. I don't know. I don't know their status up there. Kind of running through them in my head. I don't know. I don't know if they're married or what. FD Man says the illegal aliens shown there in Texas, the female will face Texas state felony, second-degree murder. The other will be charged with hit and run and aiding and abetting a felon. Good. Lock them up. Both will be felony illegal aliens in charge with 1326. And then they'll, probably have Congress people who want to go and buy them pupusas. Brian Hinkle, Trump conducted a blitzkrieg of actions in the first 90-day fight, and the fight he will win before the midterms. We will win, and briskets will be free. We will win, and briskets will be free. Good to see you, Brian Hinkle. The amazing briskets. Make briskets great again. Hey, Melanie Snare. Rob, can you file an amicus in the Abrego Garcia case to point out what was in the order, or a FOIA to see if there's any other documents? That's a great question. And I like how you're calling me out on this. It's like, maybe you should not be pathetic. Like, are you a lawyer? Yeah. Do you know how to do those things? Yeah. Why haven't you done them? Well, because I just like to scream about it on stream, I guess. Yeah, I guess I could. I don't know if we would get anything like, as an amicus. The judge would probably not give us anything. FOIA might be some privacy stuff there. All this was like I got the documents from their filings. I got the documents from their appeals and from the record. So I don't know if we could get anything about a specific case, like from his individual case through FOIA, but were there internal communications or something that we might be able to get? And a lot of the Zenith stuff has also been filed under seal as well. So it's a great question. Yeah, it's a great question. I'd love to see the document. Maybe I could text Ed Martin or DM Ed Martin or something. I don't know. What's up? It's a great suggestion. Thank you for the idea, Melanie Snare. Thank you for the idea. Yeah, what's up, FD Man? INA is codified. In Title 8 is illegal alien felony charge, then deported. They will never be able to apply for any kind or type of permission to remain in the U.S. Well, unless a judge says that they have a claim against torture, like if they're in Massachusetts, the judge might say they get everything. They can file a new claim and more. Jeffrey Adams, hey, what's up? Tommy Robinson just released in the UK. I saw that yesterday, right? That was great. That's amazing. The UK's got a little bit of a momentum shift over there. FD Man says, under the law, they will never be able to apply for any type of permission to come back to the USA either, unless a Massachusetts judge wants him back. J-Man, hey, got some news. Mini-Me is 9 months away. Sounds like a real baby's coming out. All our babies are real. Don't get it twisted. Get some news. Mini-Me 9 months away. That's amazing. Congratulations, J-Man and J-Woman, on popping out a new baby over there. That's going to be amazing. Congrats. ELZ, what's up? I'm a bit disappointed that Trump's request to SCOTUS didn't stipulate they issue a stay in 14 hours. That's great. Yeah. Well, maybe they should. They should start a timer and count down. Tomorrow, they'll say, Judge, this is egregious. You acted like, are you lazy? Are you all lazy? Why are you doing up there? For 14 hours, we waited for your response. Where you been? Gen X Ben, 10 months as a membo. Great to see you, Gen X Ben. Thanks for being here. That's a baby and then some. Off-label podcast right next door on the tubes says, to be fair, it is tree, second word, son. They took an oath and owe allegiance to this country and trying to give aid and comfort to those who levy war against us. Kind of the definition there, isn't it? Off-label podcast. Doan says, Tom Homan was asked if the Darien Gap was still being used. And he said, yeah, but now they're using it all to go back to where they came from. Oh, reverse the direction on that one. Pamela Nizlak. What's up, Pamela Nizlak? Great to have you here. Thanks for becoming a membo. See you on the after party and the members streams. Sergeant Frank Rock says the JFK files were released. Yeah, like there were a couple of tranches of those dropped in batches. It was a big nothing burger. Something doesn't make sense. Why didn't they release them before now? Well, to be honest with you, I don't know how much has been new or if people have been able to parse through and unearth what was interesting or different. Like, is there a change log that is out there? I don't know. But yeah, I think in general, a nothing burger. Like, they're not going to tell you it was 3 shooters from different intelligence agencies all operating to make it happen. Pinochet's helicopter tour says, Rob, not talked about, but aren't there months when the Supreme Court isn't in session and doesn't take cases? Yeah, I think it's like 3 months. It's a lot. District court judges will go hog wild then. The judicial branch is illegitimate. They're making themselves more and more illegitimate. If they act like the executive branch, those actions are illegitimate, like immediately, in my opinion. No, answer is no. Like, you don't get to just become the president by judicial fiat because you said so in a written order somewhere. Absolutely not. Mark Nielsen, what's up? 15 months as a membo. Someone else needs let go for no Guatemala. Someone else needs to be fired for no Guatemala. Yeah, Iraz Ruvani said that, right? And he was the one who said it was an administrative error. They fired him immediately. Administrative stay and fired. Because it's malpractice as a lawyer. You don't ever go in and just make a mistake. If you have a good argument for it, and there's a great argument for it, it's in the conclusion. Knox says, happy Wednesday, all. No such thing as hit and crime in Texas code. They're going to be charged with manslaughter. I think that, murder, second-degree murder, it sounds like, and failure to stop and render aid. Both second degrees and not good. Got it. Okay, so those are second degrees. Got it. Knox is the defense attorney in Texas, so not going to be good for him. And man, I bet that Texas jury is not going to look kindly to their made-up defenses. Hey, Knox says, congrats on the new babies and the happy toes and all the other good watcher things. All the other good watcher things. Great to see you, Knox. And shout out to Jigum's toes, no doubt. Pinochet. Rob, I'm not a lawyer. Pinochet's helicopter tour is the most exciting helicopter ride you've ever been on. Look him up. Says, I'm not a lawyer, but I have combat experience. Rule number 1 of war and crime, he who shoots first draws fire. Amicus may make you a target for the commie left. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true too. We are kind of commentators, which does give you some insulation. It is true. And you can see where people can kind of run into problems when they try to do too many things and venture out of their lane. But it's not really out of our lane. We actually, we do legal work here. I've thought a lot about that. I've thought about spending more time on FOIA requests, because I get ideas for FOIAs. I'm like, we should send a FOIA for that. We should send a FOIA for that. It's like, it takes a lot of time and resources that I currently don't have, and I don't want to deviate from the work that we're doing here. So questions like that, a lot of the times these questions like this are simple capacity questions. It's just like, man, I wish, yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, I wish I could almost be filing and acting as a lawyer in many of these cases without all of the responsibility and requirements of that. And like, that kind of is a little bit of that. Anyways, it's usually just a capacity thing. And we got business to attend to here, but it is fun. It's like, I want to get some of the juiciness. So thank you for that comment. And thanks for looking out, especially because of the commie left. There's truth to that. It is true. King of Biltong, get your Biltong. Biltong USA is where you can get that Biltong. Thanks for becoming a member. King of Biltong, biltongusa.com. Code Robert will get you 10% off over there. This old guy, what's up? I wrote Pam Bondi and quoted the conclusion from the file on Abrego Garcia. We'll see if I get a response. So you did. Thank you, this old guy. See, part of my thought is like, if I just scream about it loudly enough, maybe somebody will do something about it, but that hasn't happened. They're still saying he shouldn't have been sent to El Salvador. The conclusions, and I can understand Drew and those guys not wanting to reverse the course on that. Like, they've already made that acknowledgement for them to come back down and say, well, actually, the judge will be like, wait, what? Actually, what? And maybe there is an order that says El Salvador. The judge wrote El Salvador in opposite of his conclusion. The other people say that was just a scrivener's error, which is also another stupid explanation. The judge made a scrivener's error, didn't correct the record, and the error related to the country in an immigration case? What? Give me a break. FD Man and Dan says federal court blocks Trump from imposing some tariffs, rules he exceeded his authority to impose the tariffs under the IEEPA. Interesting update. Was that in the tariff court or the trade court? I'll look that one up. FD Man, what's up? Hey, if we keep Mexico after the Mexican-American War, if we kept it, and the Darien Gap would be the USA's southern border. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think it was Polk, right? Didn't President Polk want to take it all the way down to the peninsula? Which might not have been a bad idea. I mean, since they're invading our country, might as well just taken theirs over. Pinochet, these leftist judges are about to burn the country down, mark my words. They will nationwide injunction the crap show out of Trump when SCOTUS is out, and they're just going to go wild. Well, then we might have that constitutional crisis, because at some point, yeah, we're going to just, okay, that's enough already. Like, if the Supreme Court's not willing to do anything, then they can enforce their orders, and Trump can just execute the will of the American people. And if the American people are unhappy with what Trump is doing, then they can impeach him. They can just go through their senators, and the senators can convict him and throw him out of office. But guess what? That is not going to happen, because we elected him and we want him to do all of this stuff. We don't want judges to impede the entire operation from their benches. And if Trump says, well, actually, you're violating the Constitution, and I have an obligation to take care under my powers, and I'll do it. And if the court wants to throw a hissy fit, if the Democrats want to screech and cry about this, then they can. There'll be political consequences for that, no doubt about it. But if the administration is doing what the American people want, the representatives will hear that. They can cry about impeachment and unconstitutional, whatever. We'll have that battle. We'll have that battle. They can go and explain in the impeachment trial why Trump getting rid of Kilmer wife beater is undermining American interests. They can explain that to their constituencies on the biggest stage of all. We're happy to have that conversation with these idiots. So, my friends, thank you for joining us and being here on this stream today. Of course, members, we're going to have a members only after party as soon as we say hello to our friends on X. What's going on? Wow, vehicle registration in Connecticut. 120 registration, 15, 15, 10. Greenhouse gas reduction fee, $7.50. What a free country this is, isn't it? You have to pay a green gas reduction fee to drive your car in America. What's up, James Pepper? Asking questions about Tishy Lay Tish. Says, can judges be arrested for impersonating the president of the United States? Not a bad concept. Alvy Baby. I went back and looked for the orders to return illegals that Obama deported, and I couldn't find anybody over there. No judges made Obama bring them back. Good to see you, Alvy Baby. What's up? Donkey Hot is over there. And our friend Fred. Great to see our friends on X. And nice to follow each other over there as well. All right, my friends, what a beautiful day and a beautiful stream it has been. We are going to pause there on the evening. Members, stick around. YouTube friends, go back to the channel homepage if you're a YouTube member. Once the countdown ends, hit refresh. We'll fire up a new members only feed. We'll debrief and hang out a little bit. Locals, friends, stick around. Don't change a thing. The stream will pause and come back in due course. But my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thanks for hanging with us. Thanks for letting me go psycho mode on Kilmar's case again for like the 5th time again. I appreciate your understanding on that one. We are going to have a beautiful night and an amazing rest. And tomorrow, we're going to come back to get into it again. Before we wrap it up, thank you to our amazing mods and meme smiths. Of course, today we got Donut, John, Carrie B, K Bean clipping for us, Janak, Neuro D, Dog Digger on the Rumbles. We got Jigum, Just Rhonda, and our Dockmaster Elliot helping to keep this show oh so nice and beautifully around here, and we're grateful for them. So, my friends, we're going to pause here for the evening. We're going to stick around for the members after party. If you're a membo, stick around. Thanks for becoming a membo. We appreciate you. But that's going to be it for us here tonight. We are coming back tomorrow. And in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. We brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we exposed corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers shine in the light. Watching the watchers defending what's right. Watching the watchers